Hello, my name is Georgie Newbery. I'm a flower farmer and florist based between fashionable Bruton and up-and-coming Wincanton here in grey and gloomy Somerset. It is the 27th of October and I have the commission to make a couple of bouquets from a garden with actually practically nothing in it, but I expect I can rustle up 2 bouquets. And more interestingly, an autumn wreath, and I've got lots of wreath workshops coming up online, so do book a place if you'd like to see how we make them in detail. But I thought you might enjoy coming around the garden with me and foraging away for my wreath, and then I'll make it. And one of the interesting things I'd like you to think about, because obviously you know I always like to put my followers to work, is think about the cost of things like an autumn wreath. And one of the reasons I want to make it for you is so that you can put yourself slightly in the position of the florist or the person who's making a wreath and think about how they charge for such a thing. Because I often get people saying, gosh, they're expensive, aren't they? And they are expensive because they're time consuming to make and they use a lot of material. So I thought you might like to, I know some of you are probably florists or flower farmers like me, and perhaps you are torn about how to charge for your wreaths, and some of you will be customers and you won't necessarily understand why things work out at a price they do. So that's one of the things we're going to look at. Anyway, enough of this banging on. If you enjoy these clips, please subscribe. There's a subscribe button somewhere around. Press the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got new clips coming up. And if you find the tips and tricks we share in our clips, then please do buy me a coffee. The link is in the blurb for each clip. And obviously it's not a real coffee, but it's just a little bit to support the making of these clips. And I love the fact that people buy me a coffee. It kind of reassures me that I'm doing the right thing, that people are enjoying what I'm doing, and encourages me to make more clips. So do buy me a coffee if you like. Right, enough of this chat, let's get on. Now, I have lots of crab apples for my autumn wreath, but I'm not going to use these ones. This is red sentinel, and look at that colour, that's absolutely fantastic. That is for my Christmas wreaths. This one, I cannot remember its name. It is a cheerful sort of orangey colour, and I might use some of these. And I can't remember the name of this one either, but this is the one I'm going to use for my autumn wreath. In the distance, that's Granny's house, the old tractor shed. But look at these. These are great for an autumn wreath, so I'm going to have some of those. I'm very fond of this crab apple too. This is a Siberian crab apple, and the fruit comes in little tiny bunches like that. It's really, really useful, but I'm going to save these for my Christmas wreaths as well. Instead, look. Oh yes, I got lots of little ones here. That's why I wear an apron all the time, because then there's always somewhere to put your fruit when you're gathering it. You see all the brightly coloured willow here. This too we will use for our Christmas wreath, so I'm not going to use this today. But you can, if you live in the UK and you fancy, and you have a damp patch in the garden and you fancy growing brightly coloured willow stems like this, so that you can make your own willow wreaths or anything else that you like with willow, then you can always order bundles of willow whips from us. This is my absolute favourite. This one is this lovely dark aubergine stems. Anyway, you can order bundles of whips from us and you can stick them in the ground and you can grow your own willow for making wreaths with over the next few years. This Verbena bonariensis, the purple, is very, very good for putting in wreaths at this time of year because it just dries slowly into the wreath, and the oh, there you go. I love it when I can do that. The colour will slowly fade and you'll end up with seed heads, like you see the purplish colour there of the seed heads, And if it's on a door wreath, then you may find that the birds come and eat, feed off your door wreath, which I always think is a very added bonus of the whole thing. Behind is my beloved bog sage, Salvia. I can't focus on it, doesn't know where to focus. There you go. Salvia uglinosa, of which I'm enormously fond, and I'm going to cut some of that to go in the bouquets. Now, very much falling over and feeling end of season-ish, the last of the amaranthus, and you can see where the birds have been taking bits of it, but maybe possibly mice, look underneath, but there's enough here to go in a wreath, and it won't wilt. These seed heads won't wilt, so they'll be great in a door wreath. I'll have some of that. Now, the astonishing marvel that is this year's spindle goes on and on, so I cannot resist for an autumn wreath. Look at it from underneath. Look at that colour. Oh yes, just say yes. So definitely I'll have some of this for my autumn wreath. And then behind, look, on they go, the beloved dahlias. We still haven't had a frost, and it's the 27th of October. This says a lot about global warming. This faithful old grass, look at it move in the wind. I'll have a lot of this for Christmas, but I'm also going to put some of this into my autumn wreath today. And the last of this achillea will dry nicely into the wreath, so I'll put it in fresh and it'll just dry up nicely and keep its colour. Now, if I rootle around underneath this limelight hydrangea, I'll find some less damaged heads, which I can use in my wreath. A little bit of sedum goes a long way. This colour is really amazing in a wreath, and again, it'll just dry really slowly, but it'll keep most of the colour for quite a long time, so I'll have some of that. And you may think she's not going to put roses in a door wreath without any flower foam, and actually I am, but I'm going to look for small buds like this one, because that will very slowly come out and the others will just sit there, and so they're quite useful in a wreath for shape and a little bit of colour. I won't use the really out ones because they won't last, but something little and dinky like this will do really nicely. So for my Christmas wreaths I use willow, but I just need a base, a soft base for this wreath, so I'm going to use some of this lovely bendy poplar, which is very, very useful and doesn't mind being cut at all. Right, well, first of all, I apologise for the terrible lighting, but it is now officially the end of October, and so the lovely light we have in here in the summer is gone, and I apologise. From now on until the spring, we'll probably have the lights on. It's a miserable daylight. We have these daylight bulbs that bounce up onto the ceiling, and it's quite good for work, but not very beautiful for filming. Never mind. So my wreath, I'm ready to go. I've also cut myself some box, some rosemary, and some bay. Now bay, the reason one puts bay on a door wreath is because bay keeps the witches away. So that's why people have pots of bay trees by their front door, or a bay tree planted near their front door, or bay in their door wreath. So now I'm not going to show you me making the whole wreath. One, because if you really want to see the whole thing, you have to come on a workshop. You need to book a place on one of my demos. But two, it is quite time consuming. And if I show you how to do it, this whole clip will take over an hour. So I'm just going to make the base and moss it up, and then see how we go. And I'll show you sort of bit by bit as I go. Okay? Ready, steady, off we go. So there is my twiggery base. I have a real thing about wreaths being 100% biodegradable, and so the way that we make them is no wire, everything is foraged from the garden. So that's just a twig base made from poplar, and I'm going to leave some of these sticky outer bits because I think they add interest and we can always have a bit more interest in life, can't we? Right, I'm going to moss it up and I'll show you what it looks like when I've done that. So here it is, a few minutes later, and I've mossed the whole thing. This is moss I've just literally raked it up from the garden. I showed you this morning when I was out there earlier. I have a real thing about floristry, and this gets worse as I get older. I'm very conscious that floristry can use a lot of resources unnecessarily, and practically everybody I know who has any kind of garden will have a mossy patch in it, and people are always trying to get rid of the mossy patch because I don't really know why people want to get rid of the moss. Moss is a marvellous, underneath moss you find whole ecosystems of mycelium and little animals and all sorts of things going on, and so I think allow a little bit of moss, but also it means that you will then be able to harvest your own moss. This is just ordinary garden moss, for making wreaths. You don't want to make hundreds of wreaths, you probably want to make maybe 2-3 a year, so keep a little bit of moss in your garden and then you can use it. So my next job, here we are, it's a nice green moss. I haven't made it any wetter than it is. I'm not going to do anything completely complicated to it, but I'm going to treat it as if it's floral foam. So I'm just I sound like a 5-year-old. I'm going to green it up. Anybody who watches these clips regularly will know that before I do anything, I nearly always stop by greening up like a base. So let's green up. So here she is greened up, so to speak. Very pretty, I said myself. And that's just foliage and greenery. And I'm now going to add some other bits to make it a bit more autumnal. But you can see how that's really actually very attractive. I would quite happily hang that on my front door. Yes. But it is a bit time consuming, which is why I can't really show you the whole process because it would be here for hours. Anyway, I'm going to add some colour. And there she is finished. She's got roses and apples and all sorts of colour. It is really fantastic. They're really, really fun to make. I've given her a bit of velvet ribbon to hang her up by, and I think I'm quite pleased with that. I'm rather sad I'm sending it off to somebody else. Anyway, if you'd like to know more about wreathing, I'm sorry I haven't shown you the whole process, but it really does take an hour. So do join one of our workshops coming up and learn how to make your own wreath from your own garden, 100% biodegradable. Let's all get greener with our floristry. I think we just need to use less stuff and be a bit more foragey in our gardens. And you too will be able to make something like this. I'm really very pleased with that. I like it. Right, enough of this. If you've enjoyed this clip, do please subscribe. There's a subscribe button somewhere. Press the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming out. And if the hints and tips I've given you on this clip have been useful, then please do buy me a coffee. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye. And I forgot, we were going to talk about how much that wreath was worth. So, you've seen how much time it took to make. More time than your average YouTube clip. And you've seen kind of how much material, each different kind of material I put in. I put about 5 stems in. They all need cutting. They all need, so it had probably, it probably had 50 or 60 stems in it. It had the moss. It had about 6 stems of poplar, and it took about an hour to make. What do you think? What would you charge for something like that? Or how much would you pay? It's important. It's really worth thinking about, isn't it? Because we often, I think, we live in a very consuming world where we're used to being able to just pay for stuff. And I think sometimes we forget to look at the value. And so, of course, you don't have to buy something if it's expensive. But I think if one doesn't buy something because it's expensive, that's fair enough. But one shouldn't expect people to sell things for less than they're worth. Anyway, if you are a florist or a flower farmer, I hope you feel encouraged to charge properly for your wreathing over the next few months. And if you are an enthusiastic garden forager, then I hope you feel inspired to make your own wreath this winter, because I think it's incredibly good for your mental health. I love that. It's difficult, but beautiful, time-consuming, but very satisfying. So anyway, if you don't know how to make a wreath, do come on to one of my workshops and I'll teach you. All the details are on the website. Okay, and this is a bouquet that I made with all the spares, which is off to be delivered to South Cheriton in a minute. Anyway, bye. Enough of this chat. Bye-bye, bye-bye.